Hello, my friends. Thank you once again for tuning into the channel and listening to me ramble on. Today, we're going to talk about sales and some of the bad arguments that just shouldn't be used anymore. Coming in first place in the segment, once again, is going to be the F Series, followed by the Ram, then the Silverado, and then the Sierra. One of the most common bad arguments you hear is that the only reason Ford sells more trucks is because of fleet sales. No manufacturer, no brand separates the fleet sales, truck wise anyway. Uh, it's no way to prove that. You can't. It's no chart or graph, anything out there that can prove that argument. So it shouldn't be used. Usually, the follow up behind that, you hear someone say that Ford sells their trucks cheaper, which is another bad argument. There was recently an article done that showed that Ford was averaging the highest average transaction price. Sometimes behind that you'll hear, well, they sell fleet trucks cheaper. That's not true. And one of the main reasons that that argument shouldn't be used against Ford, especially if you're a GM guy, is I know you hate to hear this, but fleet sales was one of the main factors that sent GM bankrupt in the first place. I'm just sorry, had to put it out there. Uh, Back then, fleet sales were not very lucrative. I mean, we could do a whole nother video on this. How fleet sales have changed. Back then when GM went bankrupt, fleet sales were not very lucrative. They were almost giving those trucks away. Today, it's very lucrative to do fleet sales. I mean, like I said, we can do a video on this. If you know anyone that has a small business, landscaping company, roofing, heating and air, HVAC, anything it may be, and they've been in the business for a long time, and they use the order fleets of trucks, go and talk to some of them, and they'll tell you. Let's go back to 2001, almost 20 years ago, how much cheaper it was to get a fleet of trucks compared to 2021. They're just not that cheap anymore. And like I said, I could do a whole nother video on that another time we get to it. The second argument usually is that, hey, if you combine Silverado and Sierra, they sell more. No, looking at the charts I've posted here, you'll see that even with Sierra and Silverado combined, the F-Series comes out on top. More times than not, that is usually the case. Behind that, you'll hear, hey, last year the Sierra and Silverado combined did outsell the Ford. And that is true. Okay, what happened last year? Okay, Ford came out with a new truck. On top of coming out with a new truck, that means they had to shut down assembly lines, which means that they lost out on production, which if you lose out on production, you also lose out on sales. Okay. Now, what you also have to understand is that you're talking a 5-6-year-old Ford. They had to shut down the factory to bring out a new model. And also, there was a parts shortage. Okay, now keep that in mind, a parts shortage, because I'm going to show you something. You go back, the last time that the Sierra and Silverado combined to outsell the F-Series happened in 2014. And what happened in 2014? That's right. Ford released the all-new 2015 model. The same thing happened. They had to shut down factories, and there was a shortage. There was a parts shortage, the same thing. So, all right, let's go back to last year. Okay, Ford had to shut down the factory. There's a parts shortage. All right. On top of that, the truck is already, other than the Tundra, the oldest truck in the segment. So if you're talking the big three, that truck, the 2020 Ford at that time, was older than the Ram and the Silverado and the Sierra. Okay, so you're talking about a truck that was already old, parts, they had to shut down the factory. And on top of that, you're combining two brands. Now, here's one thing you'll never hear those staunch guys that bring this up ever talk about. And that's, you're dealing with two brands. Oh, and they'll say, oh, well, it's relatively the same truck. Okay, hey, we all know that, but hey, we know at the same time that, hey, Mr. Sierra Denali, don't tell him, a lot of them anyway, don't tell him that his truck is no better than, I don't know, a Silverado LT. Okay, those could those could be fighting words. Okay, guys. So if you got half the crowd saying, hey, they're the same, count them together, but you got the other half of the crowd saying they know the Sierra is built better than the Silverado, it's better quality, it rides better, whatever it may be. Okay, and I'm fine with that. I'll let you guys sort that out amongst each other. Okay. But the point I'm getting to is you're dealing with two brands, which means more dealerships. Now, they never mention this. Okay, let's take, for example, my area in specific that I live in. Okay, there are 5 dealer malls in my area. 5. Okay, 4 of those, there is a Ford dealership, a Ram dealership, a GMC dealership, and a Chevrolet dealership. Now let's sit back and think about that for a second. So in 4 of those areas, you have 2 GM truck dealerships compared to 1 Ford dealership and 1 Ram dealership, right? Okay, go over to this 5th dealer strip mall. They don't even have a Ford dealership. There's a GMC dealership there, and there's a Chevrolet dealership. So I mean, simple numbers here. That's 10 GMC truck dealerships in my local area compared to four Ford truck dealerships. And actually, there are more Ram lots. There are 5 Ram dealerships. So, I mean, let's put that in perspective. I mean, Ford's leading in sales, in my specific area anyway, with less dealerships. And a lot of you can relate to this because the areas of the country that you're in, it's the same way. For every 1 Ford dealership, there's 2 GM truck dealerships. Now, I understand that there are GM dealerships starting to pop up that sell Chevrolet, GMC, Buick all under one roof, with the exception of Cadillac, because GM wants Cadillac to be a halo brand, and they want Cadillac to be sold separate, and that's fine with me. So moving on. So like I said, I mean, just sit back and think about it for a second. Last year, you're taking 2 brands, you're taking roughly twice as many dealerships. You're talking about a 5-year-old truck. You're talking about factory shutdown. You're talking about a parts shortage. You needed all that just to outsell the F Series. I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't think I would even bring that up. I just leave that alone. But I mean, hey guys, I mean, we're looking at the numbers here. Even when you combine the two, within the last, I don't know, about 10 years or so, it's happened twice. And like I said, both times it was because Ford had shut factories for retooling to build a new model. Okay. So next we're moving on. Of course, we talked about Ram is now second. And you'll hear the excuse that, hey, well, a year or so ago, the excuse was that the reason why this happened was because Ram, they were selling their trucks so cheap. That's why. Okay, well, look at the numbers, folks. I mean, it's now 2021. We're dealing with a pandemic, okay? Factories have been shut down, okay? Second thing you have to consider is there's a chip shortage, rather, in more particular, a chip shortage that's going on that's affecting everybody, not just GM trucks, okay? Everyone. It's affecting Ford, Ram. Everyone's being affected by this chip shortage. So your local dealer has less than half of the inventory in trucks that he normally has. So that means that supply is lower. It's out of balance. The supply and demand is out of balance right now because they don't have nearly as much trucks on the lot right now. And you have to consider that no one is offering great finance rates or great discounts like they usually do. With that in mind, the Ram has still outsold the Chevy by over 20,000 units. Okay, so you can't use that excuse now. Okay, I mean, clearly the Ram is just in second place now. I mean, it's just no excuse. You can't use the excuses that sell them cheap. No one is selling trucks cheap right now. No one. So that excuse is it's just not going to work right now. Not what the state that the country's in right now with the pandemic, with chip shortage, the auto industry rather. No, that excuse is just not going to work. Okay, moving on. A Another bad argument that you constantly hear is that, hey, well, Ford they're counting 750s, 650s. Look, Ford separates it. Okay, you look at the chart. Okay, it's even. Okay, Chevrolet counts up to the 550, 500. Okay, Ford goes up to the 550. Okay, maybe even be a 6500. I don't know, but anyway, the numbers are even. Okay, so right here, you're looking at it now. Heavy trucks, I have a circle here in red. They're separating those trucks. Those big 750s and whatnot, they're not being counted with the F series. And even if that's your excuse, I mean, look at the numbers. I mean, it's they're only accounting for like 3,000 trucks or so. So you know what? You could even throw that in there, and if you look at the difference, it still doesn't make it up. Okay, if you even want to include, I mean, just look at it. Even with the separated, the numbers are much higher for Ford and for Ram. You know, so I mean that's not a good excuse to use either. So guys, I appreciate you listening in. That's where we stand right now. FC series still at the top. It looks like Ram is going to take hold of that second spot, and they're not going to go anywhere, guys. You know, if you guys want to combine GMC and Chevy, that's your business. It still doesn't come out on top of the Ford more times than not. And even when you combine those, they're having trouble now trying to outside or sell the Ram. Thanks. Talk to you soon, guys.